Hello all, my name is Donâ and I'm a professor of information science at University of Arkansas at Little Rock. And today I'm serving as the track co-producer alongside Samantha Maxim and Prashant Sutekal for Virtual Track G Global Issues in Data Analytics and Management. It is my pleasure to introduce the next session, how learning analytics some technical difficulties here. Learning analytics improves higher education. In this session, you'll hear about learning analytics and how that has the potential to improve education in general, both for students, for their learning outcomes, and institutions by making them more efficient and more efficient. However, before I go to the next, before I hand it over to our speaker, two housekeeping items. One is this session is being recorded. Any presentation here in this session will be included in the Symposium's proceedings. And then there will be video recordings that will be uploaded to the CDOIQ YouTube channel about 3 months after. There will be a question and answer sessions at the end. And if you have any questions, please submit them via the Whova app in the Q&A tab. With that, I'll turn things over to this session speaker, Francisco Luis Machin Aragonés. He's Global Chief Data and Analytics Officer at IE University. And Francisco, over to you.
Thank you very much, Eddie. Well, I'm going to share my screen to start. Okay, I think you are able to see my presentation, right?
Yes, we are.
Perfect. So thank you very much for the invitation. I think we are going to do a very practical session now. So we are going to talk about learning analytics and how you can improve learning experience using data and advanced analytics and also artificial intelligence. But that is not only the objective of this session. The objective of this session is I want you to take all the highlights I'm going to say regarding learning analytics applied for a specific field, in that case, education. But I want you to take all these highlights and try to put in your business, okay? I saw a lot of conference during the day, always with a very high level of conversation. Now you are about to see different examples and different ways to use learning analytics to improve a specific field. Not really not common field, because we are not familiar with companies or the educational companies. So that's the reason I want you to take all the highlights and try to put it in your business. The Q&A, it will be fantastic if you can ask me questions to try to apply all the conversation we are going to cover in this session through your business, okay? So let's move on. First of all, we are going to talk about what is learning analytics about, how we are going to start doing learning analytics, how is the roadmap of doing this, okay? A very important point after this about the legal implications about using this data. This is a common question I receive every single day. I talk about this, and that's the reason I included before your questions this point, because it's quite important, okay? Now we are going to see some learning analytics that we are doing at IE University, and how the amazing things that we are doing, for helping and improve our learning experience for our students. Then we are going to talk about AI, okay? But normal AI with predictive models that we have done in the past, but also we are going to see how generative AI is going to reshape our industry. And obviously, it's going to reshape also your business. But in our case, we are going to see it has a huge impact. Okay, so let's move on. Well, first of all, I'm the Global Chief Data Analytics Officer at AI. I am also in the board of AI. I am also adjunct professor at AI University. I was a strategy consultant in Oliver Wyman, our Center Strategy, for example. I have a master's degree in NSET, and also at AI, I did an executive MBA in the past. I am also a advisor for some startups in Spain and one here in the States, for example. Okay, first of all, I wanted to talk just a few minutes about what is AI. AI, no. AI, okay? Why? Because in Spain or in Europe, it's quite important university and business school. But here in the States, for example, maybe you don't know as well as in Spain, for example. AI University is the umbrella that contains the different schools: business school, the global public affairs, human science and technology, law school, school of architectural and design. And we have also lifelong learning school, let's say, for more experienced people. Okay. We are a global educational institution. So we have our campus in Madrid, in Spain, but we have different, here you have all the offices that we have around the world. Okay, here in the States, we have office in Los Angeles, Miami, New York, and Toronto. Okay. So in Spain, we are one of the most important schools and obviously university, but in Europe also we are quite important. Worldwide, in terms of executive MBA, we are also quite well ranked. And also in terms of entrepreneurship, we are one of the most important universities worldwide. Okay? So let's start talking about learning analytics. What is learning analytics? Learning analytics is the measurement, is the collection, is the analysis and reporting of data about the progress of learners, and the context in which learning takes place. Okay, and the question here is why it's important. It was not important in the past. But what happened not in the last year? What happened in the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years? First of all, tech capabilities. First of all, we are able to collect more information about our students because they use LMS, that is the learning management system. That is a system where the student interact with us and they interact with their courses. And the reason why they're starting to doing this mostly online, for example, can provide us an amount and a huge quantity of data. So that's the reason why in the last years, where online courses become more popular, we are able to collect more information. And that's the reason why the first point is important. Also, it's important the way we can manage all that information, okay? We are able to storage all that information with a low price, for example. That is something that it was not possible 20 years ago, for example. But now it's quite cheap to store information about all the interactions that the user or the student can do every single moment with the LLMS, the learning management system in that case, or other systems that we are going to cover during this session. So the reason is we are able to collect more information than in the past, okay? So that is one thing why it's important nowadays, this the learning analytics, the tech capabilities, but we have another point, the needs. Okay, now we want to escalate, we want to be better and improve our learning experience for the students. So the needs are important. That's the reason when you link or when you match the need with a tech capability, you are able to do at that moment improvement in that field, for example. Okay, so the new needs that we are going to answer is we want to measure the effectiveness of a specific course. For example, we want to know if this course is well done or not, if the surveys, for example, are good or not. You need to measure all the points with your student. In your case, it's important to measure all the points with your customers, for example. Okay. We want to enhance also the learning process. Okay, we want to design better learning experience, for example, doing more adaptive to the customer. That is something about put the customer in the center, right? That is more customer centric. So as you can see, I am talking about our students, but in your case, these students are your customers, for example. And that's the reason we want to put the customer in the center, okay? We need also to improve the quality of our courses, improve in terms of materials, new materials, more adapted to the new needs for the students, for example. And also we want to measure other things like, for example, completion rate, procrastination, or the learning efficiency that we can have. For example, the completion rate is quite important for us for our online learning journeys programs, for example, because for us it's quite important that our students finish their studies, because for us it's not the main point is not a student, is a successful student. So that's the reason why we want and we try to help our students to finish their studies, and that is quite common with the courses that are online and, for example, free. That many people they don't finish their courses, for example, and we need to push them to complete that course. Okay. So some objectives of implementing the learning analytics. Okay, sorry, because I have some problem here with the screen. Okay, done. So we want to improve and optimize teaching and learning. First of all, improve our courses. In your case, improve, you need to do analytics to improve your product. You need to gather information and then try to improve your product in that case, okay? Secondly, do a specific track of the learning process, okay? Exactly understand exactly the track or the journey of our student. In your case, for example, it's important, it's mandatory, I think, for all the companies to track the process of your customer, okay, to try to be more successful, okay, and be more client centric, okay. In the third point, support the development of a personalized experience. That's quite important for the learning analytics, and it's also applicable to your business for sure. Identify group of learning students who have similar patterns, for example. That is quite good to understand specific questions. That is something more in particular for the educational field, but we want to compare all the time professors with best professors or students with the best students or with the lowest ones, because we want to avoid this kind of behavior, for example. So we want to create clusters and do these kind of things to understand better our students, okay? We want to know how our students, they consume the course. That is quite important. because we need to know if the flow of the course was properly done or not, for example. The seventh is one of the biggest issues for us, that is the scalability. Okay, learning analytics is about to accompany a student. We want to be close of our students. So for doing this, you can have, for example, different managers or program directors that manage all the relationship with the students during all the course, for example. So imagine that you have 100 of students and you want all of them to be accomplished, together with someone, no? To be better like this. You need to have a lot of program managers, or you need to have a lot of program director to accompany these students. That's a problem. So artificial intelligence or learning analytics works to scale this model. And instead of having, for example, 30 program managers to accompany 100 students, we will need only 1 or 2 program managers that, using artificial intelligence or using learning analytics, they are going to be able to accompany all these students. So that's the concept of augmented people. We want to augment our programs directors or program managers. We want to augment them to help the students in an efficient way. And that's the reason why we are using artificial intelligence to learn analytics. And that is key also for your businesses. And finally, we want to predict learners' behaviors to minimize, for example, dropouts. For us, it's quite important, as I said you before. For us, it's important to avoid these dropouts. Okay. We can do also predictive models to predict the final grade, for example, for a specific student, and that is quite useful to have early alarms to say, hey, what happened here? What happened that week? What happened with that specific subject? You know, so with this tool that we have done about that predictive models, we are going to have these early alarms to accompany the student. Okay, and finally, well, other points, we want to identify also the low engagement, for example, low engagement, low knowledge that the students are acquiring, for example, but behaviors or change in the behavior from other students. All of that was related to create early alarms to try to accompany again the student. So at the end of the day, we are going to improve the student retention and satisfaction, and we are going to improve the learning process that we are doing. Okay. So learning analytics is about accompany our students. That's the main point here. We want to accompany and we want to accompany all of them in an efficient way, as I mentioned before. So that's the reason we need that learning analytics and that the artificial intelligence to augment our professionals to accompany all the students that we are able to do. Okay. So how is the roadmap? How we need to get started with learning analytics? Obviously, the first point here is about the online courses, right? Online courses, why are the first? Because we have more information. That is something basic. If we have more information, we're able to do better analytics, better artificial intelligence projects, whatever we want to do. If we have the fuel here, and the fuel is the data, we're able to do, and we are going to be able to build better data products. After this, we can do the blended programs, for example. That is something that in between, that is online programs, but also we have some presential here. And at the end of the day, we are going to use many of the online courses knowledge that we retrieved in the previous stage. Finally, the last is a multimodal learning analytics. Let's say that is to include all the information of the student that they have in face-to-face also. So here, for example, we don't have so much information from the interaction with the online platform, for example, but we have information of the student in the campus, for example, and how is their patterns, for example, in the campus, and we can mix all the information with the academic performance, for example, and see quite good patterns, and try to see also early alarms to try to help our students to improve their goals or to reach their goals. Okay, so that's the reason why we call that multimodal learning analytics. So that is a screen that I have created to explain that the very first point is data. We are talking about artificial intelligence or generative artificial intelligence, but it's the last step. And we need to know this. Before doing anything, we need to have the data. So that's the question. And that is not also applicable to my business. To your business is also important. I mean, if you guys you want to do an amazing project in terms of artificial intelligence or whatever, or advanced analytics, maybe you need, maybe not, you must ask where is the information you need to retrieve from, okay? The systems that you have, the latency of this information. I mean, how many times per day you have updated this information or not. It's necessary to know exactly the system, how you retrieve the information within API, with whatever, okay? And then as soon as you have that data and you download it, and then you do the transformation and you clean and you have the quality enough to do the next step, then and only then you are going to be able to do advanced analytics, in my case, learning analytics, and in the next step, artificial intelligence project. One important thing that, because I remember this morning, this is something that many people is talking about, having all the data with quality, blah, 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 blah. No, I think it's not necessary to have all your data clean, all your data completely structured or whatever. No, you can do it, use it using use cases. I mean, you have a project in terms of artificial intelligence, important project to do for your company. Try to retrieve the important information for this specific project and try to do quick wins. And then by improving your data lake, by retrieving better and more information, you are going to build that data capability, and you are going to improve that data capability. But if you try to do all of this at the very first point, all of that, maybe you are not going to be able to add value for the company in terms of artificial intelligence project in the short term. So my tip here is to work using use cases, quick wins, try to build all your data capability that I said is the most important point here, and try to build on this using use cases to reach artificial intelligence or advanced analytics projects, okay? Okay, here is a normal framework that we can work with to try to resolve the question, where is the information we use for learning analytics in our daily basis, okay? So first of all, here, we are going to talk about the system that the user, in that case, the system that the student used to interact with us. So that is the learning management system interaction and the forums. So the student is going to interact every single day with this platform, is going to consume all the materials in terms of cases, in terms of also videos, for example, Okay. So here we need to evaluate all the forums answers that using NLP now with GPT or other open sources LLM engines. We are evaluating all the postings that the user, the student in that case, are doing. That is a quite very good input. Also, we have the iteration with the professors. Okay, we are doing learning analytics for students, but also for professors, in order to help both of these stakeholders. Okay. Secondly, here we see the video platform analytics. Here at IE, we have some video platforms that we used to do in the past that is called WOW Room. It was a specific software where we were able to control all the information and all the events that happen in a video platform, for example. And that's the reason why we can capture more than 45 events, for example, and we were able to analyze a lot of the things using computer vision, as you are going to see in a moment. Okay. This emotion is if you are able to retrieve that information about the videos, for example, or from the forums, you are able also to evaluate the emotions of all of this using NLP that we have done in the past, or using GPT nowadays. Okay. And finally, you have all the information related to the mobility, for example, of the campus, and all the future data and physical data that we are able to gather, like how many times you go to the campus, where you are in the campus, blah blah blah. Okay. Okay. Oops. That. Okay. Sorry. So now, important point. Many of you are wondering what happened with the legal implications, right? So the most important thing is you must identify a lawful basis for processing student data, okay, such as obtaining the student consent or performing any contract, okay? That is super, super important, just to inform the student that we are going to be able to use that information just in the period that they are going to be students. We need also to notify the purpose of the information we are going to use. We are going to say, hey, exactly this and this information we are going to use for this and for that. And they are going to be able to sign up or not, okay? We are going to retrieve only the necessary information. We're not going to take all the information we can, okay? Because this is an educational institution, so that's important to know. We need to inform, as I told you before, the students about the data types that we're going to collect. So the point of transparency is quite important also. And obviously, security measures. We are going to implement appropriate technical and organizational measures to ensure the security and confidentiality of the student data. Okay, it's super, super important. That is most important, or as important as medical information, for example. So that's the reason that information is fully anonymized, is fully encrypted in our data lake, that is also GDPR compliance, so full security for this kind of information, okay? As I told you before, we anonymize all that information but not always. For example, if we want to create a tool to identify low performance, for example, for the student, to help at the end of the day the students, that the specific information we cannot anonymize. So we need to create some dashboard for the student, for the professor, or for the program director to accompany the student. So in that particular case, we are not able to anonymize. If not, that power, we lose that power, right? So we try to anonymize all the time that information, but and when we anonymize it, we want, because we want to do predictive models and all of this. That is always with anonymous data, but not always. Okay, and in that case, we specify, we have the transparency enough with our students to say, hey, for that particular case, we're going to use that information to help you. So imagine that in a week, your performance is quite good, but in a specific week, your performance went down, or your attendance, or your engagement with the course is decreasing, something in a specific week, then an alarm is going to fire in the dashboard of the programs director, and they are going to ask you if you have any problem with the course, with the subject, in your personal life, whatever. Okay, these are the things we are currently doing at our university, for example. The 7th point, establish a retention period for student data. That's important. The data retention, we don't have that information for a long period of time. As soon as the student finished these studies, we are not going to use any more that information, for example. Individual rights, obviously we are going to be respectful for the right of the individuals. These are the points, normal points that we have all the contract that the students sign, and the points that we show them to, no? Obviously, if the student data is transferred outside the European Economic Area, ensure that the appropriate safeguards are in place. This is not for us. This is not happening for us. We are not using this. We include this point in the contract, but obviously for us, it's not important. The 10th point, yes, is important. Whenever you want to do a specific projects in terms of artificial intelligence, or do some kind of a specific learning analytics, but for sure, artificial intelligence, with information with your student, you need to ask for this specific purpose to the student, and you need to create also a DPIA. Okay, that's important. Okay, now we are going to move to the learning analytics that we have done and we are doing here at AI. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to show you some examples, and you can see how we manage all that information. For example, for HIOPS. What are the HIOPS? Well, HIOPS are small private online courses. So imagine our courses, 5-week duration, more or less. The typical courses that you can find, for example, in Coursera. We have many courses in Coursera also. And these kind of courses, obviously, they are, well, they don't have a lot of dropouts, but we have many, and we need to minimize that. No? So here you can see an overview about what the programs director, they can see. They have the name, the surname of the student. In that case, for example, they have also how many messages they sent to the student to communicate with them, the grade that they are obtaining, and the predictive grade that they are going to obtain if they continue doing what they are doing. Whatever they are doing, in terms of how many times you go inside the LMS, how many times they answer the messages with different colleagues, they comment, for example, in forums, all this kind of information. We're going to talk later on about this predictive model that is super complete. And that is something that we put there. And if you can see, if the program director see that that predictive model is going to go on down, then they can send directly an email to the students to communicate with them to try to accompany again. and say, hey, what happened here? Do you need extra help in this particular case, in this particular subject or whatever, okay? Here you have another example about what the information, about how we manage the information. We need to know the behavior of the student always in 2 arrows, knowledge and engagement. That is quite important. We want to measure what is the knowledge of our students. And we want to compare this knowledge between this particular student with the average, for example, from the previous students for this particular course, for example. We want to measure then the knowledge. But we want to know also the engagement with a specific course. So, for example, maybe if I ask a question, how you can measure the knowledge? Well, the knowledge is quite simple because you need to have different tests, exams, assignments, and then we can measure this knowledge. This is super direct forward. You see these kind of marks and grades. It's quite simple to imagine it, and there is quite positive correlation with the knowledge, right? So the concept knowledge we have created with around 4 or 5 variables depending on the course. But engagement, how you can measure the engagement of a student? Well, I can tell you that we measure more than 42 variables to measure this engagement. Obviously, we apply different coefficients for the different variables using our experience, obviously, and we have created that measurement. With this, with knowledge and engagement, we can figure out where is our student. If we need to force them to participate more, if their engagement is quite low, for example, or if their knowledge is quite low, maybe we need to offer extra information to try to put the knowledge in the core level, for example. So the way to activate the students is different if you want to activate in terms of knowledge or in terms of engagement. Okay. Okay, here you have another dashboard that we have created. For example, this is related to the specific questions here in the left picture. You have the different questions for the different modules, let's say. Okay, so the first exam at the end of the first chapter, the first exam at the end of the second chapter, the third exam at the end of the third chapter, for example. Okay, that's important because with this we can see in average if all the people answer properly a specific question, or in that case, most of the time the questions are not properly answered. Maybe this is because of the question, maybe this is because of the content, it was not really well explained. So that is a very good picture for a specific course, but if we do this with all the historical information that we have for that specific course, that is the picture in the right side, there, imagine that information for the same question, how you can compare with all the courses, similar courses. Here you have different names, but one are in Spanish, another one are in English. So that's the reason you can identify a pattern. So if you see that always these questions are red, that means 2 things. Or the question is not properly asked, or the subject is not properly executed, or the content is not well done, whatever. That is something to evaluate. So as you can see, these kind of dashboards are made to adapt your content. If you remember at the very beginning of the session, I told you about how you can improve not only the learning experience, but also you want to improve your product. And in your business, it's quite important also. You need to measure how your customer interact with your product to try to adapt your product better. That is my example. Using an educational product, we can see if this product in that case is properly done or not. We can identify if the subject is not well done or whatever. Okay, that is a perfect example about how to do this. Okay, this is another example, and here you have for the different weeks. No, sorry, because I have something here. I cannot see properly the slide now. For the different assignments, let's say we can have a color that indicate us it was properly done, or it was a fail, for example. And with this also we can have the predictive grade that you are going to obtain if you continue doing the things like this. Imagine this like that. After 3 weeks, we are going to have this. Okay, we see until here, only these 3 arrows. After the week 5, for example, we are going to have until here, right? So at the end of the weeks, this value, this predictive model, is going to change. That is another way to see this. We can see this in the screen that I showed you before, or here you have another graph to see that. And we are going to talk about that predictive model, okay? So that is the reason why in a visual way, in a traffic light way, let's say, the programs director are able to see if something is happening and they need to contact the student to try to encourage them to study more or offer additional content, for example, in terms of if the problem is identified in terms of engagement or knowledge, as I mentioned before. Okay. Okay, this is another thing that I really like. So here you can see where a student consume the material provided by the professor, and if this student consume that material in the proper week, or it was done in the next week, I mean, in a lately way, let's say. That is something important, and this variable obviously has quite good contribution in terms of engagement, for example. Okay, so that's important as the reason I'm going to explain you a little bit more. So imagine that day here, that day, oops, sorry, that day, the first day, each line is one day. Imagine Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, again, Monday, blah, 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 no? Each line is a day. So that is the day when the professor deliver a specific content. So, and here, for example, is more easy to see. Here's the first day. The professor deliver the content W1, okay? W1, in the week 1, sorry, they deliver this content, okay? And the day that the professor delivered that content, this amount of people, the percentage of people, they are watching or they are consuming that content, okay? Then the second day, After the professor deliver the content, this is the amount of people that consume. The third, the fourth, the fifth, and here, that is because maybe it's because it's Friday. That in that case, these students, they study a bit more on Friday. They consume the most here the information provided 5 years ago, 5 days ago. The problem become here. All of these people are consuming the content provided here lately, in the next week, because in this next week, there is a new content delivered here. So you can see how the students are up to date with the content of a specific subject. That's amazing to know the engagement, for example. And for the professor, it's also quite important to know how the people consume their content, their cases or their materials or their videos or whatever. Okay. Okay. Okay, and another example about how to use these analyticals. Let me see. Well, this is again how to consume, how they consume the content. We can compare how many views, or I mean, we can measure the views, the downloads, all of this. Okay, we are not going to talk about all of that, but we can compare, obviously, as I told you before, all the things that we are doing for a specific class, we want to compare with courses, similar courses or the same course with different cohorts, right? So that is something that obviously in many industries you are going to do, not only to measure your specific case, but also to you want to compare with other cohorts, other products, whatever, depending on your business. Okay. Here again, comparison. We want to know your average depending on your terms of performance, or also yes, performance. In that case, is performance. How is your performance related to the average performance with all the students from different cohorts, for example? That is something super typical to do, right? To compare. Okay, again, correct answers. That is something similar to the previous one, but with this graph, we can see here. I'm going to draw here. You can see here there are two columns, one big and one small. The big is how many correct answers you have for the specific question, and then the second column, smaller, you can see the average with the information from the historical information. So with this, you can compare if you went up in this particular course or not. In this question, for example, your cohort is going down related to the average. Okay. Okay. These are quite good also. You need to know how these courses are consumed. So for example, for the different videos, we want to know exactly where the students stop specific video, for example. Okay, that is important, and we can control this. And this is quite amazing also. For all the courses that we are doing online for massive people, for example, like this one, the contents are self-paced, so people can consume the chapter 1 and then they can go to the chapter 5 and then return back to the chapter 2 or whatever. That is the concept of self-paced. And we want to measure this as I told you before, in your organization, you need to also to analyze how your customers do their journey, and you want to measure how is the path. And in that way, for example, we see that after doing this module, they went to this module, and after this module, they went to this module, and you see all of that. That is important to redesign, sorry, a specific program. And we want to know if the design created at the very beginning is the good one or not, because at the end of the day, customers, they are right always, right? So they know exactly the way they are doing the correct path to improve their learning. And that's the reason why we measure all of these to try to redesign our product. That is something super useful also in your organization. You need to know how your customer consume your product, okay? And try to redesign your product in the cases you need it. Okay, now we are going to talk about another product we have done, that is the online learning journeys that we have done for example, for Amazon, or the Ubuntu, that is the online tourism of academic. These products, for example, for Amazon Italy or Amazon Spain, they teach small companies using our product, and they hired us because of our learning analytic module, because with that module they are able to, as I told you before, enhance the student experience, and they are able to control the learning and try to accompany their students using small people. That is the concept of scale that we have talking before. Well, here you have some example that is quite similar from the previous example that we have done. Here you have a dashboard that you have many of tabs that you can see the completion rate. For Amazon, for example, it's quite important to know the completion rate for the different chapters of the course. And here you can see some measures and some dropouts. Dropouts are quite important for all the people that we want to measure, and we are doing educational products. We want to know the dropout in order to avoid that. Obviously, as you can see here, you have a lot of dropouts, for example, for this product, because most of the time that is another type of product that is MOOCs, that is a massive open online course, okay? And usually for these courses, the price is super low, and that's the reason why there is a lot of dropouts at the very beginning, okay? And here you have an example about the dropouts from a specific course, for example, but that is super common, okay? And here you need to work in that second phase. The first phase is something that is normal. All the people, this is free or super cheap, but we need to work in that second stage to avoid dropouts, for example. Well, here you have another examples about how to manage the information with the blended programs that I told you before. Not only we are moving from the online to the blended programs, and well, how is the interaction with the professors? How many messages the student, that is the number here, this number here are students, okay, anonymized in that case. And we want to know if the performance with the forums are okay or not, for example. Here you have also the behavior during the days using the forums. That is quite important to know how is the participation rate, and with this you can redefine the forums. And here you have also the attendance for the the online courses, you need to know exactly when a person is going, for example, this person here, it was only engaged, or it was only in the course, in the session during this moment. And that's the reason why this person has a low rate of attendance, and you can put absence in that case, for example. Okay. Okay, we also see the interaction user, the interaction student professor, to see if there is a proper balance between the messages received and sent. And here we have the predictive model that we have talked before. So with that predictive model,
Francisco, we are getting close to about 5 minutes left.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I'm going to go faster, a bit faster. Yeah, with that predictive model, we want to avoid these wrong grades that we obtain, because for those grades that we try to obtain and we say, hey, this guy is going to obtain a 5 over 10, and finally this guy obtained an 8, that is not a problem. The problem is to avoid the red one if we predict a better grade that the student is going to have. That's the problem. So when we predict a bad grade, usually we use this to help the programs director to encourage the student to study more. Okay. Well, here you have the examples that we have done, because we have done computer vision since 2019, not since February with all that generative AI, whatever. No, we have done a face detection, a gaze detection also, a gaze detection. That's amazing, done in 2019. A facial expression detection, for example. And it works properly well. We have the state of the art was good, but we improved this a lot. And here you have an example about of the things that we have done: the attention, the engagement, for example, of the somnolence, doing measuring the diameter of the eye by scaling up with different eyes at the very beginning. So going super fast, generative AI is going to reshape all the industries. But to be honest, one of the biggest industries that is going to have more impact in terms of artificial intelligence is the educational industry. Most of you guys, you have children, and you are wondering what is going to happen with my kids and ChatGPT and whatever. No, that's the reason why artificial intelligence, generative artificial intelligence, to reshape exactly all the industry. And the projects that we are doing here are in terms of improving our teaching and learning, but also we are doing projects to be more efficient in terms of operations, and also to improve our sales. And we have some projects with generative artificial intelligence to adapt ChatGPT for specific documents and specific information we have at IE, for example, to help our professors to answer the students with the PowerPoints or all the conversation done in their forums, for example, or all the videos done by the professors, and we can create a specific ChatGPT only for this specific professor. And we are doing this. This is an example already done with all this technology we have already implemented for our blended programs. 3 takeaways: learning analytics is necessary to develop a personal experience. 2, the main principles applies to any industry. All we have talked about this session apply to any industry. So you can improve, you can think about how to apply all of covered in this session in your industry. And obviously, generative AI is going to reshape not only our organization, our industry, but also yours. Okay, thank you very much. Sorry, I'm a little bit late, but we have at least 5 minutes for questions. Eddie, you are mute.
No, I am not. I just noticed that. So we only have maybe one question. Let's go with it. and that is, do you see the chat GPT as, because there's a challenge. You mentioned that, I think, in your, there's a challenge with chat GPT, but I was wondering, is it a challenge because it helps students cheat, or is it a challenge because they need to learn how to use it in the future?
That's a fantastic question.
I mean, how to actually use it, not like a search engine.
Yeah, so that is a fantastic question, Eddie. We at IE University, we are trying to help our students and our faculty to embrace this technology. So we want to put it in the center of the education. That is higher education, that is university and business school and all this. That is not the same with primary school. With primary school, they have another problems. But for the college, we are going to put this technology on the center of the sessions. Another thing is the exams. Obviously, in the exam is a specific moment, 1 hour and a half or 2 hours in some cases, for doing a specific exam and a specific test. But at the end of the day, you need to be able to work with this technology, artificial intelligence, because in the future, artificial intelligence is not going to take your job. It's going to take someone who knows more about this artificial intelligence is going to take your job. So that's the reason why we need to put artificial intelligence technology in the class. Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I think we have reached the time, and thank you so much, Francisco, for a very interesting analysis of the analysis tools that you've been using. Kind of went through quite a lot of theirs.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.